to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
We are here to fuel Rockets News, this Rocketsville podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Lashard Binkley. You can always find my written work over at Rockets on that side. You can find me on Twitter at Binkley Hoops. I do a weekly show where I come on and talk with Nate Griffin of Fox 26 Houston about, of course, your Houston Rockets. And you can also find me weekly now, probably 2 times a week on the Rockets Collective. Of course, also talking about your Houston Rockets. We are presented by Believe and sponsored by FanDuel. And speaking of FanDuel, when they look at the odds of where the Rockets will finish in the Western Conference playoffs with 5 games left, they actually have the Rockets finishing in the number 5 seed where they currently are right now. Now, of course, if you actually want to make money from where they're going to finish, especially if you say they can finish in the top 3 seeds, which is kind of a long shot, but that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later. They have them as a plus 2,200. So basically, you put down $100, you can make 2,200 if they finish with a top 3 seed, and actually at the number 3 seed. If they finish at the number 4 seed and you put down $100, that's $410. And if you look at it, they don't see the Rockets finishing in that number 6 seed. So basically, they don't see Minnesota being able to catch them in the final 5 games. But if you do think they're going to finish at that number 6 seed, you put down $100, you can make $500 from that bet. And that kind of leads us into today's topic, which is I'm going to be breaking down the Rockets' last 5 games, see if they can finish with home court advantage, especially with the latest news we got about Luka Doncic's injury. Also, we're going to break down the Lakers' final 5 games, Denver Nuggets' final 5 games, because those are 2 teams that are directly in front of them, and the 2 teams that also have the tiebreaker. We're going to be breaking those games down as well. And also, if the Rockets should even, where they should finish in the standings. Should they want to stay in the 5th seed? Should they even want to maybe move back to the 6th seed, depending on where the Lakers finish? So there's a lot of questions still to be answered in these final 5 games, and I want to kind of break down the different scenarios and break down the chance of the Rockets even moving up in the standings from their current 5th seed. So, of course, we've seen the Rockets have won their last 5 games in a row. They just beat the Utah Jazz by 34 points last night in one of their easier games of the season. In this 3-game homestand that they've had, they've only trailed for basically 1 minute the entire homestand, and that's when they trailed the New York Knicks by 1 point, 1-0, when the Knicks made a free throw at the beginning of the game, and the Rockets didn't trail for the rest of that game, haven't trailed in any of the other games during this homestand. But of course, the Rockets now are going to go out on their last road trip of the regular season, starting on Sunday, and that's kind of where we're going to start. We're going to talk about the Rockets' final 5 games of the season. Like I said, that starts with Sunday in Golden State, and of course, we just found out, like yesterday, that Steph Curry, and I'm sure Rockets fans knew this all along when there was a chance that Steph Curry was coming back soon, that it would be against the Houston Rockets. And it kind of make matters even worse. He has missed 27 consecutive games, so I will let that joke make itself. And he is reportedly will be back for that Rockets game on Sunday in Golden State. And we already know that the Rockets had already struggled against Golden State. They lost maybe a few weeks ago when Golden State came to Houston. They didn't have Steph Curry at the time. They were basically playing a bunch of G Leaguers, and they were able to beat the Rockets. I won't say they blew the Rockets out, but it was a pretty safe win for Golden State, to where they had control of that game from pretty much the last part of the 4th quarter, and they were able to come away with that victory. It was one of probably the worst losses of the season for the Rockets, to lose against a Golden State team without Steph Curry. Kind of bring me back to the Christmas Day game during the James Harden days, when the Rockets, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 2019, where the Rockets played the Warriors on Christmas Day. They didn't have Steph Curry, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't have Klay Thompson, and they didn't have Draymond Green, and the Rockets still managed to lose that game with James Harden in the lineup. So it kind of reminded me of that game. And now you're going into Golden State to play a Golden State team who they're pretty much locked into the 10th spot. I mean, I guess if you look at the NBA standings, they may have a chance to move up a little bit. Because right now they trail the Clippers by 3 games. So they're not necessarily out of moving up, but more than likely they're not going to move out of that 10th spot. So But with Steph Curry coming back, he might be on a minutes restriction. We have to wait and see with that. But at the end of the day, it's still Golden State. So it doesn't matter if they were playing people off the street. The fact that it's Golden State and the Rockets always have to be on their guard when they're playing this team. And you know that Golden State, it doesn't matter who's putting on the Rockets uniform. They just like beating the Rockets. That's just kind of how it has been the last several years, going back to all the playoff matchups the Rockets have had with the Warriors over the last decade. So that's going to definitely be one of the tougher games. We really start to see if the Rockets have truly turned a corner in these next 4 games, because they have some really tough games coming up. Because after that Golden State game, they have the Phoenix Suns. Before I get to this Phoenix Suns game, as you're looking at this on your screen, as you see the start time for that is not a Eastern time zone start time either. That is Central time. So, and I know the Turkey fans, Houston Rockets fans all over the world, especially of course that watch in Turkey. I know they're sitting there saying like, okay, you're really complaining about a 10 o'clock game when we be watching most of our games at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I definitely understand what you're saying, but this is an extremely late game for a Central time zone game. So anyway, I just have to kind of talk about that, because 10 o'clock pretty much means the game is going to end the next day on Wednesday. So that's just kind of a weird time. But anyway, back to the actual game. That Phoenix Suns game, Phoenix still has a chance to get caught by the Portland Trailblazers, because Phoenix has lost 2 games in a row. Portland has won 3 games in a row. Again, it's an outside chance, because they're a few games behind Phoenix, but Portland still has a chance to catch Phoenix. So that pretty much means that you can almost guarantee that Phoenix is going to be playing all of their guys for that game. The Suns have been without their projected starting line for pretty much the entire season. As we know, Jalen Green missed a big part of the season. Then when he finally came back, Devin Booker was out. And then when Devin Booker came back, Dylan Brooks was out with his injury. And then Mark Williams has missed time. So they just got back their entire team, main rotation these last few games. But again, Phoenix has been struggling recently. So they're still trying to fight off the Portland Trailblazers. We all know that with Phoenix last loss, the Rockets clinched a top 6 seed, so the Rockets don't have to worry about Phoenix catching them this season. So Phoenix right now is just trying to fight off having to fall to that 8th seed. So Jalen Green's first game against the Houston Rockets, that's going to be another tough game. It's going to be a extremely lively atmosphere in Phoenix, even though Kevin Durant's already played in Phoenix, back in Phoenix this season. He hadn't played against their entire, starting team. So it's going to definitely be like a playoff atmosphere. So that's going to be another tough game for the Houston Rockets. And then you go to Philadelphia on Thursday, and that's going to be back home, because that Phoenix game will be the Rockets' last regular season road game of the season. So now you're going to be playing the last 3 games at home. And that Philadelphia game, maybe a couple of weeks ago or 2 months ago, it would have been a lot easier, because that's when Joel Embiid was in and out of the lineup. Paul George was still on suspension. So they were without their full team, but now they also are, for the most part, fully healthy. Paul George is back on suspension. Joel Embiid's been playing a lot more games. So they've been playing a lot better lately. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. So that's going to be another tough game for the Rockets to finish the season. And then we move over to Minnesota. At that point, again, another team that was playing without their star in their last game, and we all know what happened against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Rockets last game. They had the biggest collapse in overtime, play-by-play history. They were the only team to lose a double-digit lead in overtime, and they did that against the Minnesota Timberwolves team without Anthony Edwards. And again, Anthony Edwards has been in and out of the line, so I have no idea whether he's going to play in this game or not. But again, it doesn't really matter, because the Rockets have already lost to this team without Anthony Edwards. So again, that's going to be another tough game. And we don't know. It kind of depends on how these next few games play out, if that game is even going to matter as far as the 5th and 6th seed is concerned. But it does matter as far as the tiebreaker, because the Rockets and Timberwolves both have a game apiece. So that game will decide the tiebreaker. Again, we won't know if it will even matter. If the Rockets win these next 3 games before that Minnesota game, then it's not even going to matter, because Minnesota will have a really hard time even catching the Rockets. But let's just say that it does matter. It will matter at that time, and that's going to be another tough game. And then they finish with the Memphis Grizzlies, who's, I will say one thing, they've been one of the best teams in the league as far as tanking. So if the Rockets keep playing like they've been playing lately, that should be an easy win to finish off the season. So if you're looking at the next 5 games for the Rockets, 4 out of 5 games are extremely tough games for the Rockets. So it won't be easy for the Rockets to move up in the standings. But it'll give us a good idea if the Rockets have finally started to turn that corner when it comes to being a competitive team, a team that can actually win a first-round playoff series. We'll find out a lot about the Rockets in the next 5 games. So that'll definitely be a good test for them to finish this season. Now, if we're looking at the 2 teams that are ahead of them in the standings when we talk about whether they can move up from that 5th seed or not, right now we're going to take a look at the Lakers' finishing schedule. Now, of course, it's a caveat with the Lakers. It's not just about who they're playing. It's about who they're playing without. We found out yesterday Luka Doncic's hamstring injury is going to keep him out for the rest of the regular season. And if you know anything about hamstring injuries, if you try to rush back from that, there's a good chance that you can make it even worse going forward. As I know most Rockets fans know, when it comes to hamstring injuries, and you're talking about Chris Paul, Rockets fans know hamstring injuries very well, unfortunately. So there's a good chance that he doesn't even play in the first round. So now you're starting to look at, okay, if you look at the schedule as a whole, they have Utah, they have Dallas, 2 teams that are definitely going to be in the lottery. But now you're playing without Luka Doncic, who is a top 2, top 3 MVP candidate this season. That's going to be a lot tougher for the Lakers. They're going to put a lot more pressure on the 40-plus-year-old LeBron James. So these games aren't going to be cakewalk for the Lakers. They play Dallas next tomorrow. That's always going to be a highly competitive game just because of the history between these 2 teams. Cooper Flag just went off for 50 points his last game. So even though Dallas doesn't have a really good record, it's still going to be a competitive game. And then you look at their next game against Oklahoma City. You would think, Oklahoma City maybe rested some of their guys, but the San Antonio Spurs are not making it easy for them. The Spurs are, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 games behind the Oklahoma City Thunder for that number 1 overall seed. So, and the Spurs have won 11 games in a row going into their game against the Denver Nuggets, which we'll talk a little bit about when we go over the Denver Nuggets schedule. So that more than likely Oklahoma City is going to be playing their full complement of starters. Jalen Williams, again, has been in and out of the line, but it doesn't really matter because it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're still one of the best teams in the league. So that's going to be a tough game for the Lakers. Then, like we talked about with Steph Curry coming back, Golden State is going to be a better team. Porzingis has been playing well lately, so that's going to be another tough game for them. Same thing we've been talking about with the Phoenix Suns. They now have a full complement of players back. They might still be fighting for that 7th seed with the Portland Trailblazers, so it's a good chance that they'll be playing a lot of their guys. And then just like the Rockets, Lakers finished with, should be an easy game for them against Utah Jazz, who are trying to lose every single game they could possibly lose. So that's probably the only one on this whole schedule that you can say that's pretty much almost a guarantee. There's no guarantees in the NBA because any team can lose to any team in the NBA, but that's probably definitely going to be their easiest game of their final 5 game. So if I'm looking at their schedule, I didn't say this with the Rockets. I'll go back and talk about where I think they'll finish in these final 5 games. But if you're looking at their schedule, they have 1 game they definitely should win. Then the other games, honestly, they should win the Dallas game. So let's just say we give them that Dallas game. There's a good possibility they finish 2-3 in their final 5 games. For the Rockets to be able to catch the Lakers in the standings, what this kind of makes them losing back-to-back games to the Lakers even more of a problem because they lost a tiebreaker. So since they lost a tiebreaker, the Rockets have to finish making up 3 games on the Lakers instead of just 2. So if the Lakers go 2-3 in these final 5 games, the Rockets would have to sweep their 5 games to be able to catch the Lakers in the standings. So that's what makes it so tough, and that's why these tiebreakers, that's why these games against teams that you're fighting with in the standings are so important. And that's why, them losing those back-to-back games was just devastating a couple of weeks ago. But that's what the Rockets have to do. The Lakers win 2 of these final 5 games. The Rockets would have to sweep their 5 games to catch the Lakers. Now, if we move over to the Denver Nuggets schedule for the final 5 games, They are also dealing with some injuries as well. Peyton Watson has been out for several games, but they still have Jokic. They still have Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon is back. So they still have really their top three players if you're looking at their roster. So, but they have also a tough schedule to finish. And again, it all kind of depends on where teams like San Antonio, Oklahoma City are to end the season. Are they still fighting for that number one seed? Because if so, then they're going to be playing their guys for most of these games. Denver Nuggets have to take on San Antonio Spurs today. That's going to be a tough game. Like I said, the Spurs have won 11 in a row. The Nuggets have won 7 in a row. So that's going to be a tough game. Then you're looking at the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, they're fighting for the 7th seed, so they're more likely going to be playing their guys. Memphis, that should be a cakewalk. Like I talked about with the Rockets, Memphis is not even trying to win at this point. And then they have to play the Oklahoma City Thunder, who could possibly still be fighting for that number one seed. And then they have to play San Antonio again. So the Denver Nuggets, out of the 3 teams I just talked about, have the toughest remaining schedule out of anybody. If everybody's playing their main guys to finish the season. I mean, if you're looking at their final 5 games, it's kind of hard to say because Denver is playing just so well. They've won 7 in a row, but there's a good chance that they lose 3 of these games. They can also go 2-3 in their final 5 games because, I mean, you're playing San Antonio twice, one of the best teams in the NBA, Oklahoma City, who has the best record in the NBA. You're playing the 2 teams with the 2 best records in the NBA to finish the season. That's a tough matchup for anybody to finish the season. Looking at the standings, the Rockets right now, they trail the Denver Nuggets by 1 game in the loss column. Again, the problem is they lost the tiebreaker. So the fact that they lost the tiebreaker means that they have to finish 2 games. They have to make up 2 games on the Denver Nuggets as well. So let's say the Denver Nuggets go 5-3, the Rockets would have to go 4-1 to finish the season. So is it likely the Rockets move up in the standings anymore, especially with the way the Denver Nuggets have been playing? And the fact that they're trailing the Lakers by many games as they're trailing on the finish of the season? No, it's not likely that happens just because it's just so many games they have to make up, and losing those tiebreakers is just so devastating. The Denver Nuggets completely blew the Rockets out in that last game they played against the Denver Nuggets in Denver, and that's why the Rockets lost a tiebreaker to them. So that's just something that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at these standings and seeing where the Rockets possibly finish. I think that if you go back to the Rockets schedule, I think the Rockets could possibly finish, if you go back to who they have to face in these final 5 games, I think it's a good chance that the Rockets can win 3 of these final 5 games, maybe possibly 4. A lot of it's going to depend on what they do against Golden State, because if you're able to go in there and beat Golden State, a team that you've just struggled with the last several years, no matter who you've had on your roster, then maybe you can go 4-1 in these final 5 games, because even though Philadelphia is playing better, you're playing Philadelphia at home. Minnesota, you should have beat them in Minnesota. And yes, I know that was without Anthony Edwards. So if I had to guess, I would say they finished 3-2 or 4-1 in these final 5 games. And of course, like I said, I don't think 3-2 is going to get you to be able to pass the Lakers. It possibly 4-1 can get you to pass the Denver Nuggets. So the Rockets basically need a lot of help to be able to move in the standings, is basically what I'm saying, to finish this season. So it all kind of starts with that Golden State game. And then if you're looking at who you would want the Rockets to play in that first round, again, a lot of it depends on how the teams are playing going into the playoffs, and also it kind of depends on what's kind of the long-term prognosis when you're talking about Luka Doncic right now. They're saying that he's going to miss the rest of the regular season. We haven't really heard as far as the playoffs are concerned. We'll probably find out a little bit more about that closer we get to the playoffs. But if you're looking at the 3 possible teams that they can play, Minnesota, the Lakers, or the Nuggets, of course you have to pick the Lakers. Even before Luka got hurt, that's probably a team that you would pick anyway. And just kind of, I'll break it down a little bit more once we actually know who the Rockets are going to play. But if you had to look at it, if you're looking at the 3 teams, out of the 3 teams, who's probably the less disciplined team out of those 3 teams is probably the Lakers. Who plays probably the worst defense out of those 3 teams is probably the Lakers. If you start breaking down individual matchups, who do the Lakers have that can guard Alperensengun? Nobody. one-on-one. Who do the Lakers have that can guard Kevin Durant one-on-one? They don't have anybody that can guard Kevin Durant one-on-one. If you start looking at some of these other teams, Minnesota, Jaden McDaniels did a really good job on Kevin Durant. You look at the Denver Nuggets, Peyton Watson is a really good defender, and they're just a good overall defensive team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. Minnesota has multiple defenders, and even though Alperensengun has really good games against Rudy Gobert is still 7 feet and still one of the best defensive players in the NBA. So I would take the path of least resistance, and that is the Lakers, because to me, even though, yes, they are a top-heavy team as far as their talent with Austin Reeves, with LeBron James, and when Luka's playing, but they, to me, they have probably the lesser of the more competitive benches in the NBA as well, because when you're looking at a Minnesota team, they can play DeSuma off the bench. They have Bones Highland. They have some other guys that can actually score off the bench, as we saw in their last game against Minnesota. Of course, we know Denver, they're a really good team from top to bottom. Then, of course, also you're dealing with the playing in the mile high with the altitude. So if you're looking at all of this, you put all this help combined, it's the Lakers are the best matchup. And if you're the Rockets, like I broke down with those FanDuel odds earlier, more than likely they're not going to fall back to that 6th seed, because they have that 2-game lead now on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if they beat them, they beat them in the last game they play them, they'll have also the tiebreaker as well. So if you're thinking logically, more than likely the Rockets are going to finish in this 5th seed. And it really comes down to, will Denver catch the Lakers? Because Denver is right behind the Lakers, and Denver is playing really good basketball right now. So if you're thinking logically, and if you really look at all the schedules, all the circumstances, more than likely the scenario is going to be the Lakers are going to finish with that 4th seed. The Rockets are going to finish with that 5th seed, and the Rockets are going to start on the road against the Lakers, if you're looking at it logically. But again, anything can happen in these Final Four games. As we've seen all season, it's really hard to predict what the heck is going to happen, especially with the Rockets. The Rockets are playing better right now. Could the Rockets go 2-3 in these Final 5 games? It's a possibility. Could they go 1-4? It's a possibility. Could the Rockets win these Final 5 games? It's a possibility. So it's really hard to kind of nail down where the Rockets are going to finish. But if you're looking at it from a logical standpoint, if stuff that actually makes sense, it's probably going to be Lakers-Rockets in the first round. 4 or 5 seed with the Rockets starting on the road. But again, we'll see how it finishes. As usual, I will be here kind of breaking down a little bit of everything. I know I haven't been doing many podcasts lately because it's just been a hectic time, of course, with the writing and the television obligations and doing the other podcasts for Rockets Collective. It's been a lot going on, but definitely as the playoffs get closer and closer, and then when we get into playoffs, I'll definitely be doing at least one show a week. And as usual, I appreciate anybody that comes on and supports the channel. If you are a subscriber, thank you as usual. If you're not, definitely subscribe to the channel and like this video. That helps me out with the algorithm. And of course, let me know down in the comments, where do you think the Rockets are going to finish as far as the standings? Where you think their record's going to be in these Final 5 games? And where should the Rockets want to finish? And who should they want to play in that first round series? So definitely let me know down there in the comments. As usual, I appreciate all the support, and make sure you check out the next episode of Rocket Fuel Podcast.